All right, welcome to the Warren Cycling Podcast. My name is Dean Warren. I'm in Sarasota, downtown Sarasota, Florida today at the Beyond Realty office of Darren Dolling, the Dolling Group. Darren, a former Florida State cyclocross champion.
All right. Yeah, a new sponsor apparently too. And I'm Randy Warren, and I'm in Asheville, North Carolina. And since we're online, or if you're watching this on the YouTube, you can see the Blue Ridge Parkway that I get to ride on oftentimes.
And I've got not Sarasota skyline, but Rio de Janeiro. So that's my background.
And I'm Eric Brunner. Joining the podcast today. I'm a rider for the Blue Competition Cycles presented by Build Cyclocross team. And I'm here at home in Boulder, Colorado.
All right, Boulder, Colorado. How many good cyclists have come out of Boulder? Can't number all of the cyclists. What a great
move to Boulder.
Right. Once we've got so. All right, Eric. So happy to have you join us. We're actually really excited. We haven't had an interview for a while, and I think that we're long overdue. And wow, we landed a top-notch rider right now who's riding on a really high. You've just been killing it on the cyclocross this year, and you're the just newly minted Pan American cyclocross champion. So welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Dean.
Okay, Eric. Well, like we like to do most cyclists that we haven't talked to before, since it's not the normal American sport where you grow up like playing little league, baseball or t-ball, and progress into that sport, or have sports like basketball in school. Although now at least we do have some mountain biking leagues in high school. So how did you get to become a cyclist, a cycling athlete?
Well, cycling is the main sport that I've done my whole life. I got into it because my parents are both cyclists. And so I rode for a couple junior teams in Colorado, first the Flatiron Flyers for a couple of years, starting out when I was around 10 years old, and then Boulder Junior Cycling the rest of my junior career.
All right. So did you dabble in any other sports? Did you like play the other normal American kid sports?
Not too much. I did a few years of ski racing, both alpine and Nordic, and I was somewhat serious about that. Traveled to some races around Colorado. But in the summer, cycling was my main thing. I did a couple of years of track and field in middle school, but I mean, it was, once I was in high school, it was cycling year round.
So we think about normal sports, like the ball sports and that for the rest of the country, but from Boulder, I mean, you grew up in Boulder, sounds like, right? So in Boulder, it's cycling is probably, and skiing, are like normal sports, right? That's not like an outlier really, is it?
Yeah, no, growing up here my whole life, it's a little bit out of the ordinary, but everyone pretty much knows what it is. And I think that most people who I went to school with had some idea of what cycling was and thought it was cool, even if they weren't into it themselves. So it's been great to grow up in Boulder and have a really strong cycling community around me, and have a lot of other people to do it with.
As a junior, then, did you do all disciplines? Did you race mountain bike, cyclocross, and road, or what did you gravitate more towards then?
Yeah, I did do all three. I started out really doing all three. I never raced as much mountain bike as road and cross, honestly, just because there was less mountain biking going on. When I was, kind of in the first half of my junior career, maybe up till I was 13 or 14, we had the Mountain States Cup. And so I went to a few of those around Colorado, New Mexico, places like that. And then, once I started to get more serious, road just ended up being the one that I focused on, honestly, not for any real reason. And, that's kind of foreshadowing to now, because I've ridden professional on the road for 4 years now. And next year I'm going to be taking a step back from that. I'm still going to race a little bit of road, and I'm going to get back into the mountain bike circuit.
Mountain bike circuit.
How about track? Did you ever do any track? You got the Colorado Springs Velodrome, and for a little while you had the Velodrome in Boulder.
Never any racing, but I did spend quite a bit of time riding at the Boulder Velodrome. Yeah, I've been down to the Springs once or twice, but learning to ride on the track in Boulder was pretty fun. And you know, once you could ride that thing with the 45-degree banking or whatever, made the other tracks real easy.
Was that a 200-meter track?
No, it was, I want to say it was
166
125 or
166,
something ridiculous like
probably
that.
166 probably. We used to have one of those in Chicago, and yeah, I think we were 47 or 49-degree banking, so you could stand in the turn and at the bottom of it and reach your arm out and touch the track, right? It was that's steeply banked. Yeah,
had to go something like 15, 16 miles an hour to even stay on the track, so it's pretty steep.
They always say that, but I used to run clinics on the track, and we used to like play with that speed. I done like the 13 or so and could still hold it up, but then you were really nervous whether you're gonna slide down or not.
Depends how good your tires are.
Yeah.
So you race collegiate now? Did you race UC at Boulder?
Yeah, so I've raced collegiate all 4 years, and I graduated about a year ago in 2020. And so I raced good amount of road and cyclocross for CU Boulder. I won cyclocross national championships a couple times, and then once each for the criterium road race and team time trial.
Excellent. Yeah,
that's great. Collegiate can be pretty competitive too. I mean, you get, you theoretically could have pros who are racing, collegiate on a regular basis too. So, but oftentimes you'll structure your season so maybe you're not going spring semester, or if you're on a quarter system, maybe, right? Did you go full time the whole time?
I was full time. I came into college with a good amount of AP credit, so I was able to take kind of a light course load my junior and senior years. So that helped once I really started to up the amount of training that I did. But I just wanted to get through it sooner rather than later, and because I knew I wanted to keep riding, and so if I was going to get a college degree, it was going to happen at some point, right? So I honestly enjoyed going to school while doing cycling seriously. I think that it taught me a lot about time management, and just almost made my training better in a way, because I had to be really focused about it. And I couldn't just wait around all day to go out and ride. I have to do it at a specific time every day. So I enjoyed that whole experience.
Yeah, I remember I wrestled in high school and college, but in high school, one of my teammates who was really good said that his grades would go up during wrestling season because he had to be better with time management. And when we were in season, he could they say he's going to study later on, and it never would happen. But if you're forced into time management, for some people, that really helps them to be more productive.
Oh yeah, I can really relate to that. Yeah, I think it just helps to have a lot going on.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, for sure. Well, you started racing. Did you race before you raced on 303 project? Were you racing on a club team after junior? Well, I'm trying to piece all these years together, because that's when I first, of course, heard of you, when you started racing for 303. And I remember particularly like Tulsa Tough, like you just killing it on the criterium there. But tell us your progression coming up and getting on 303. And then, of course, I know Nick Grafe very well. And one of the goals of the team was to help like younger riders like you to develop and to get on a bigger squad like Evola, like you eventually did.
Yeah, so I spent 2017. That was my first year of under 23, my freshman year of college, racing road for Evol, which was my cyclocross team at the time, which is what Blue Competition Cycles is now. And then so that was just me. That was more of just because I wanted to race and didn't have a club. And then in 2018, then the following year, I joined 303 Project, rode with them for a year and a half, and then I got on a Volo in mid 2019 and rode with them for 2.5 seasons.
All right, and unfortunately, COVID just really threw a wrench in everything to not get the racing in that you would normally gotten in the seasons. But you progressed really well to win U23 Cyclocross Nationals at the last Cyclocross Nationals, right? 2 years ago.
Yep, in December 2019, I won the U23 Cyclocross Championships in Washington, and yeah, that was my first my first national championship win outside of collegiate. You know, I think collegiate deserves respect. I think it's a real national title, but it's,
Right.
you know, it's not quite at the same level as winning a UCI race at nationals. So that was really cool, and you know, I think shows how far I've come, and you know, that I was able to progress. You know, even out of being junior, and you know, in my later years of U23. So still really
And
proud
then,
of that one.
and then you got to spend time in Europe after that, racing over some of the U23 World Cups. Is that what you did?
Yeah, that was one of my favorite trips to Europe. So I've been a number of times with USA Cycling over to Europe, but in the end of 2019 and then beginning of 2020, I spent 6 or 7 weeks in Europe, and so we did a bunch of Christmas time races, and then, you know, including the World Cups in Namur and Zolder, and several other races. And then we headed to southern Spain for a training camp for a couple of weeks. That was really nice. You know, being able to ride in shorts in January, and you know, get some proper training in without having to worry about the weather. And then we went back north for the last several races of the season. We did the World Cup in Pontchâteau, France, I believe, and then Hoogerheide and World Championships in Switzerland.
So those courses that you got to race, is there any that really stuck out that you really liked a lot? One that you can't wait to go back and try to tackle it again?
Lowenhout, the Ossencross in Lowenhout is one of my favorites. It's just a really fast course, and it's just fun. It has several kind of unique features. There's these big ditches that you have to either run or ride over, and you know, they're just small enough that you can bunny hop them, but it's super scary to do. Really satisfying though, not having to get off your bike and clear those things. They have a big pump track that's I mean, the bumps are so large that, you know, you're pretty much straightening your arms all the way, and then bringing your handlebars into your chest. And that's just kind of a fun race that's a little bit less scary or gnarly than some of the others. Although I do really enjoy you know, how difficult and just heavy, how much climbing there is on some of those other courses like Namur and Zolder.
Yeah, how do you like the sand?
I do love the sand.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at riding the sand, and I don't know. It's just one of those unique things about cross that's, I think it's really satisfying when you hit a section of sand right. And not really much sand racing on that trip, but I did race the Coxside World Cup as my first race ever in Europe when I was a junior. I want to say I was 16 years old, and to this day, that was one of the hardest courses I've ever done. You know, because if you watch Coxside, you're like, okay, there's all this sand, that looks really hard. But what you don't really see on TV is there's so much elevation, and there's probably 4 or 5 other climbs per lap that, like, some are on sand, some aren't, but you're just barely getting up those. Like, you know, especially as a junior, like the elites make it look much easier, but you know, as a 16-year-old, that was just a real shock to the system. But I mean, you know, that's what makes you better, I think, is just getting thrown in the deep end like that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this year you've had a really strong build up to the Pan Am Games. You won a couple of the Rad Cross, and then King's Cross you won one weekend. Those very different courses from each other, or is that playing more to your strengths?
Yeah, so the King's Cyclocross in Cincinnati, it's an old golf course, pretty grassy, and similar grassy, dry course at Really Rad in Falmouth. But I would say that the Cincinnati course was a lot tighter, more corners, slower speeds for a lot of it. There was really only one sustained pedaling section, And then the really rad course, there was a decent amount of elevation, also a bit twisty, but you could link together several long pedaling sessions that I would say made the course harder physically. And, you know, in the King's course, it was, you would go really hard one time per lap, and then the rest of the time you're not necessarily recovering, but it's not super taxing, and you're kind of just trying to take the corners as fast as you can. The King's course did have one steep hillside that they used a lot, that you went up and down, so that added a couple short bursts of power. So, you know, I would say that those courses were similar kind of variations on the same theme.
And then what about the course in Texas for the Pan Am?
And then Texas, about half of it was the similar, that kind of grassy, fast. Although they made that course much wider, and much fewer corners on the grass, which I kind of like, kind of a more championship or World Cup style course. And then the other half of the course was in the woods, and it was really twisty and flowy, almost like a mountain bike track. And there was a couple steep hills that were, you know, barely rideable. The difference about that course was it was really, really physical. If you watch any videos from that race, it's harder to tell if you're not riding it, but there was one section where you climb, you know, 200 or 300 meters long climb, go back down, and then, you know, just seconds later you do basically the same thing again, another little wood section, another climb, and then the finish straight away. So all of those sections together just made it incredibly hard. And, you know, my strategy in that race was on all of those pedaling sections, that was full gas. And then the wood section, you know, you could just tire yourself out unnecessarily there. But I was honestly just trying to recover on that section, be smooth, you know, carry my speed, ride fast, but not, you know, honestly just save it for those grass climbs.
Was it single track through the wood section then?
Bits of it were, some of it was wider, but most of it, there was only really one line. You couldn't pass too much unless somebody made a mistake or took kind of an unorthodox line. You could maybe pass on those steep climbs sometimes if somebody took it slow or they ran it and you rode it. But for the most part, it was just get in line and follow. So, sure. You know, that day I was nervous for the start, partially because of the championship, but also just because I knew that the start was going to be very, very important in that race. There was an uphill sand pit shortly after the start, within the first minute, and then not too long after that, you entered the woods, and, you know, from there it was you're pretty much in the spot that you were in for another couple minutes. And if anybody opened up a gap, there wasn't much that you could do about it. So fortunately, I was second after the start and was able to just relax on the first lap and not worry too much.
It is a lot like mountain bike races. I always remember that, you know, I was struggle with starts a lot, and so going into that first wooded section in a mountain bike race was always nerve-wracking, because if you didn't get a good start, you could be watching the leaders just right away from you, and you couldn't do anything about it sometimes.
Exactly. And, you know, I just use that adrenaline, that nervousness to my advantage, and I try to turn that nervousness into excitement and energy for the start. And honestly, you know, unless I'm overly nervous, which I don't really get very often, that nervousness helps me because it makes me excited. So, and it's just like,
I would
just
say
motivation.
As a coach, I always say there's two kinds of nervousness: the nervousness that you're not going to do well and you're nervous about that, or the nervousness that's kind of excitement that you have a chance to do really well. And that's the
nervousness, that you can do something. Exactly.
All right. Well, you've credited your equipment providing you with extra advantage this year, or some equipment change, or some way where you've upgraded what you're riding on. To explain to that, as you wrote in your Instagram posts, right?
That's a good question. So I'm on a new frame model from Blue this year. It's still called the Norcross. and I actually was on it last year, but I didn't do any UCI racing. So, this is the first season that it's been out. So the 2021 Norcross, it's just updated geometry. The old one's been around for a while. It's a good bike, but the new one, it's much stiffer. It's added the fully internal cable routing. So, the cables are routed through the handlebars, stem, headset. And there's a few other cross bikes doing that right now, but it's more of a thing for the road. I don't know. That's not really a performance thing, but I love the look, honestly. I think it looks sweet. And then
is it nice? I mean, so in the road they do it for aero advantage, and for cross you don't need that as much. But in cross, though, if you're shouldering the bike and stuff, I mean, you theoretically could catch maybe a hand or something on a cable. So without the cables
sure.
sticking it out at all, that probably just makes it less to worry about, right?
Yep. Just having the cables out of the way. My bikes are Di2 with hydraulic brakes, so there's not really much reason that you need to pull the bike apart ever. You're not needing to recable it, so I don't think that the internal cables are a big drawback. It does take a while to build it. It is harder to build, but I think it's worth it. But yeah, just super stiff in the head tube and the front end, and then they lowered the seat tube, and went from a 31.6 to a 27.2 mil seat post. And so what that does is the seat post just has way more flex in it. And so really that's where most of like the flex is coming when you hit bumps. You can do all you want with the tube shapes and making the seat stays thin or whatever, but really that's what's making the bike comfortable on bumps, apart from maybe running a bigger tire or lower tire pressure, which we can only do to such an extent with cyclocross. And then the other upgrades that I've had this year is thanks to Shimano, I'm on full Dura Ace this year. I've been on Ultegra Di2 in the past, and honestly, it's a bit lighter. There's not a huge difference there, to be honest. I mean, it looks cool. Maybe it's a mental boost, and then just having a load of wheels, so I can have plenty of tires for each condition. I have 3 different treads that I'm running, of tubular tires, and so having a couple of each of those is a really big advantage, rather than having to pick from maybe 2 treads or share with teammates. Now Scott Funston and I, we just have our own wheels. Maybe we'll share if somebody flats multiple tires in a day, but for the most part we just have our own stuff. We can stick to it, and just having plenty of I have 3 bikes this year, which I've never had before. So just having plenty of equipment, it spreads the wear out. If you break something, it's not such a big deal. And, you just go through less things, you break fewer things. And that's really nice, especially in this year when it's been so hard to get equipment. It's nice to just start out the season with everything you need.
Yeah, with tire choice too, that's a big deal, because if you have, 1 set or 2 sets of wheels, then you might have to compromise on tread and have something that's going to fit multiple, just multiple types of terrain. But if you've got 3 or 4 sets of wheels, then you can have really specific tread for specific courses. And so that can really give you an advantage. I mean, like I only raced on 1 set of, I used to have my sew-up race wheels, and then I had a backup clincher, which was always a higher pressure and stuff too. And so my sew-up ones had to have a real wide variety tread that could handle almost anything, because it was the only wheel set I had. But if you've got a sand course or mud course or things like that, and you have very specific tread for those, that just gives you a little bit extra edge too for those different races, doesn't it?
Oh, totally. And at a high level, you just have to start looking for those advantages, even if they are quite small. So really, just in the last couple seasons, have I had enough wheels to be able to even glue up any file treads. So I've been on the file treads a lot this year. I was running the Dugast Pippi Squalo file treads in Dallas, and so it's a small advantage, but
It's a fast tire though.
maybe
Yeah.
10 watts at, average. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
something.
Yeah,
Sure.
Leonard Zinn just did a study on gravel tires, and he was saying the file treads over, a little more aggressive tread was 6 watts, per tire. And that's, you think 6 watts doesn't seem like all that much too, but 6 watts in a race that's close or one that you're going really hard on is definitely a difference.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt.
All right. Well, this is a Warren Cycling podcast. It is the 9th of December today. It's episode 271. We're so excited to have Eric Brunner with us, who just won the Pan Am championships on cyclocross. And the big news really is what's going on right now in Chicago. In the Chicago area is the U.S. Nationals Cyclocross Championship. And Eric, you're still in Boulder, but you're getting ready to pack up and head to Chicago. And you're probably curious a little bit about the course. So I don't know if you've been able to do any video reconning or that, but we're real fortunate today. We've got someone who just raced the course. Yesterday? Was it? I lose track of time because I'm flying them around on my trips to that. But
Wednesday, yeah. So yeah, it was yesterday. Yeah. So Gaylord Otte, he's one of my athletes, and he's from Chicago, from Evanston, and he races for XXX Racing-AthletiCo, and he's a national class age group racer on gravel and on cyclocross. And he did the 65-69 race and was 7th place on Wednesday. And so we thought Gaylord could give us a little bit of an idea of what the course was like and what conditions were like. And I know that people are worried about potential rain for tomorrow, maybe changing the course. And I was talking to Gaylord yesterday. He was saying looks like a little less rain than what some people were thinking too. But Gaylord, tell us a little bit about your race a little bit, and then about the course and stuff too, and what Eric can expect on Sunday.
Sure, thanks. I raced yesterday in the 65-69. There were 32 that took the start, and 10 o'clock in the morning, sun was out, and compared to the couple of days before that were quite cold and quite windy, things were calm, and we were around 30 degrees. So I pre-rode the course early at 7:30, and I was surprised how dry the course was, start to finish. The course ran fast. It was bumpy, quite bumpy. I'd almost call it a farm country sections where they were making use of kind of some natural prairie that they'd created in the park, Contigi Park. And so you had pretty bumpy running for about half of the section of the course. We're up adjacent to a golf course, so the pits were on the edge of that, and at times you would get a little respite and roll on the the fairways a little bit, which were certainly graded and smooth, so you could mentally it was nice to know that that's where you could kind of roll smooth and get ready for the next jarring section. So they kind of had two main features of the course. Early on, after the start, of course, it was in a parking lot, and you roll out on a straightaway and a fairly easy curve, and then a little sharper turn onto the grass. You roll around, and right away you had the sand pit, pretty wide, pretty deep, but it was very soft on Monday, a couple of days before, and was very, very difficult. Only a very accomplished rider, strong rider could roll it through. But in our race on Wednesday morning, it was groomed. I guess it was a little firmer, and most of us made it through. In the race itself, we're all bunched together going through, and there was a first section of 6 or 8, and I was right about a couple of seconds back of that. A guy did an end over in the sand, and it was good to kind of come a little bit, have a chance to kind of navigate around that. So you always count on, you always are happy to have some good fortune. And know it could be your day in certain cases. So From there you go, you're lumping along and swing back and go over the barriers. They have 2 barriers on a flat, straight path. So you have a lot of speed through there. So you just need to be careful on taking it at a pace you're comfortable with. And then from there, you go to the next feature of the course, which is predominant. They made a lot of use of it. The park calls it Butterfly Hill, but it's a bus hill. You have a couple of rollers to get you warmed up, and then kind of a hard incline is USAC set up a nice course where the spectators are right there at the top of the hill, right up close, so you can watch it come up from different angles because you come back to that hill. Plus, you can also see out over the course very nicely and catch probably 3/4 of the whole course, right, or some 3/4 of the course, right from the top of the hill there. So quite nice. So it was fun to make that hill and swing down through some off cambers around the crest of it, and then you roll into the pits again, the second pit time, and you then head out a little south, a little bit of golf course, but then quickly into some more kind of prairie bumps, and back around the other side of the visitor center, and a little bit of asphalt path there, and then a chip path, and then back to the hill again. A little longer run up. The Leats will have a little more climbing. They had a couple of sections closed off for us age groupers. The Leats will do a little more straight up and down off camber, and it'll be quite challenging, it looks to be. And then you come down that hilly section for the last time, and you're back on the parking lot straight. So yeah, good course. I was hearing a little bit from friends on the team today. It was a little more wet, a little more slippery, just probably from the higher temperature. We were a little bit below freezing. So I think when it got above freezing, it's going to be a little softer perhaps, and certainly a little more, maybe more slippery in some of the off-camber sections.
Yeah, it looks like this weekend it's going to be lows just at freezing and then into the mid to upper 40s for the highs. And so by the time Eric races, will be the last race of the day on Sunday. And I know when I've been to Nationals, that race is always butting up against darkness almost because they're trying to squeeze it in the daylight hours. That'll probably be the softest the course is all week, especially if it does get a little bit of rain. Well, if it gets a little rain on Friday, then the softest will probably be on Saturday. But definitely it'll be a little bit more worn on Sunday.
Right. Yeah. And I talked to a guy that's racing single speed on Saturday. Thank you. And he was hoping for a bit of rain, just to kind of soften things up, and
the forecast does say
some more challenges.
There's a 100% chance of rain on my Weather Channel app for Friday. So
Friday.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I've heard everybody say anywhere from like maybe less than a half inch to an inch. So
oh my gosh. So yeah. Well, that would be a lot of rain. That would be. I think it would turn quickly, pretty severely muddy. I think in several sections of the course. Yeah.
Eric, how much when are you going to get in to the course, and how much recon will you do prior to getting to the course?
I'll get there tomorrow. I have a press conference at the venue tomorrow, but I'm not going to ride the course. Partially because I have an easy day. It's going to be raining most likely, and I think the course is going to be a lot different by Sunday, so there's not too much point in stressing about it. I'll get out for the Saturday pre-ride after all the races on Saturday, and that's kind of nice that it's later in the day, because I think it will be a little bit dried out, a little bit more similar to what we'll see on Sunday. You know, I've seen a couple videos, and the course looks pretty straightforward. You know, no features that are really crazy, but at the same time, it looks like they've done a good job with the terrain, and you know, it looks like like a championship course. You know, it's staked wide. They've made it hard, but you know, nothing too gimmicky or weird. And I think it will favor somebody who's, you know, an all-around rider. I think that's what makes a good championship course.
Do you, I mean, it sounds like you consider yourself more of an all-around, like you like courses that have some strength elements to them, but you're not really scared away by some courses that may have some technical aspects as well.
Yeah, that's totally right. I would agree with that. And from what I've seen, I like how the course looks. I think it will suit me pretty well with some long straightaways and hard climbs, but also, you know, difficult corners. And yeah, no idea though how much the mud will stick around from Friday. I'm really curious to see.
Yeah, Gaylord actually is going to do the team relay on Friday in the rain, so he'll get a completely different experience doing it on Friday than he did on Wednesday, or that you'll have on Sunday.
That's for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I was telling Randy, I thought I'd appreciate some change up and some wetness, but a large mud is very difficult for me and in my maneuvering. So we'll see how it turns out.
What's Eric? What's the muddiest course you raced? I don't know. Did you follow the last weekend that when Wout van Aert came back to racing and it was like what, ankle deep or at least mud that he was?
I did watch
they were going through it. Did you watch that?
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. Everybody's slipping and sliding and falling and sliding a bit.
I've done a couple like that. National championships in Louisville.
I was gonna say, yeah.
And Asheville both come to mind. Those were some of the few races I've done where I've pitted, you know, every half lap. Just really heavy mud.
Louisville, especially. Louisville had those off-camber, long downhill sections that were, people really having challenges with that.
Oh gosh, yeah, and you know, I pitted the very first time on the first quarter lap, so you know,
it was bad.
Probably less than 2 minutes after the start.
Yeah, the earliest
the Zaven World Cup in Germany also comes to mind. I did that in let's see, 2016 and 17. I think the 17 was incredibly muddy.
You didn't do the Wisconsin courses when they held them up near Madison, did you?
I did. Those were actually, I did that both years. So the first year was my first, no, that was my second national championships. I raced in Bend the year before that, but
that hill was
pretty muddy.
Yeah,
but it wasn't nearly on that level.
Yeah, I mean, what made it tough was, I mean, the hill made it a little more challenging because it was a pretty steep hill up and then also down too. I know, like in my master's race, going down was almost like skiing than it was riding. It was just kind of trying to hold the bike upright as you slid as fast as possible down the hill.
That was a hard one. I don't remember super clearly, and I was just really young. But a lot of people are saying that this course this weekend reminds them of Wisconsin.
I remember the official offered me the chance. I was 19th place, and they offered me the chance not to do the last lap, and he'd still place me. And I was getting ready for road season, and that's when Nationals was in January too. And so I said, yeah, it's fine. So official was a friend of mine. I said, I don't need to do another lap for this course. It's okay.
So what kind of expectations do you have for yourself now, Eric? I mean, we're looking at your results and thinking, wow, you're going to be very, very competitive. What, I mean, not to put pressure on yourself, but what will you be satisfied with, or what are you looking forward to? How are you mentally approaching this weekend? I mean, Kerry Werner's, excellent. Curtis White's excellent. Stephen Hyde's been, not at his level that he was before, but Gage Heck is up there, a really strong rider too, to compete with you. What are you just racing your own race? What you can do, or I mean, what's your mental preparation?
Yeah, Dean. I mean, I think that's a great way to think about it, is just riding my own race, and that is what I try to do. That's what my coach Grant Hollicky is always telling me to do, is just give what you have on that particular day. But definitely I do have higher expectations after Pan Am's and how this season has gone. But if you had told me in August that I would have, 4 UCI victories this season, Pan American champion in my first go around at the elites, I don't even know if I would believe that. At this season, at the beginning of the season, I saw myself as a contender for races like that, but I mean, it's still better than I ever expected. So, I think that now the pressure is off a little bit. On one hand, I know that I'm riding really, really strong. But also I know that, if I have a terrible ride at nationals, the season will still be a massive success. I'm still going to the world championships. So, pretty much anything at nationals, I think will be a success. I would love to win another title, but I'm wearing the Pan Am jersey next season either way. So, whatever I can do at nationals is just a feather in the cap, honestly.
So if you thought about that at all, if you win nationals, what jersey do you wear? Which one gets presidents? Because if you're in the Tour de France, you wear the yellow jersey over the World Championship jersey. But if you're Pan Am, which theoretically is a regional championship, and the nationals is a national championship, is that even entered?
Yeah, so the Pan Am takes precedence.
Okay.
In the past, they've let you choose either one, but now I think the UCI and the Pan American Federation, whomever, is just trying to make it a bigger thing, and I honestly really support that. You see how big of a success the European Championships has become, and in a relatively short amount of time, and cyclocross isn't as international of a sport yet as road, but I really hope that it goes that way, and I do see it going that way. Mexico has taken a large national team to some of the World Cups this season for the first time. So I would love to see some of those riders come out to Pan Am's next year, and just makes cyclocross a more international thing. But I'm happy to do my part in with that.
Yeah, that's great. I think you're exactly right, because you really don't have anything to lose in some ways this Sunday, because you have had a successful season. It's really your first year racing in the elite national championship race, and the people who have the higher expectations are some of the racers like Curtis White and Kerry Warner, who are, don't have that many more years left of their career. So they're looking for that first national championship, which they haven't gotten yet, which they really have been at that level for a long time. And you think they certainly have warranted. So the pressure is more on them than it is on you. And you can kind of not feel like there's the expectations that they might have.
Yeah, I would certainly think so. I'm just really looking forward to it. It's always fun to race when you're on good form. It's fun to race, period, but it just makes it that much better. I like how the course is looking. Yeah, I think it'll be super fun.
Any questions for Gaylord as far as any elements of the course or anything, or I don't know if he can help you out much at all. Of course, if you're racing the same day, you can just say, hey, how was that corner? How'd the hill ride? Like if your race is coming right after that. But having raced several days earlier, it's a little harder to get that, immediate knowledge, right?
No, I appreciate the insight, Gaylord.
Oh, thanks.
I'm not sure that I have too much for you right now. It's like,
I get it.
I don't even have too much of a mental picture yet, but
yeah,
would you say that it was a lot of pedaling?
Yeah, certainly in the bumpy, kind of the farmy sections, and your advice about it kind of seeming like a Wisconsin course. That's kind of my impression too.
Okay.
Yeah, and you're trying to keep speed through those jarring sections, so that's certainly some pedaling effort there. Yeah,
that kind of sounds like a Colorado course to me.
Okay.
Bumpy grass.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, you have a good amount of rest with some the paths and whatnot. So I think you can really go. You'll do well to go real hard on the more difficult parts. Yeah.
Yeah, and that more comfortable
Gotcha.
seat post is going to help you out too.
Yes.
Certainly.
No, that's true though. I mean, just when I had those courses too, that we had all those bumps and stuff too, you kind of had to almost be off the saddle a little bit and just let your legs, as you're pedaling, absorb some of the shock to smooth it out a little bit, because otherwise the jarringness, that wears you out too over time.
For sure. Yeah, I do like to do that. And ride a gear or two harder than you normally would. So it's almost halfway between seated and standing.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But do you have European plans again this year after the national championship coming into January? With having the world championships in the US, it doesn't benefit as much to go over to Europe to get ready for a European world championship.
No, I'm gonna sit it out this year on Europe. I had been planning to go, but it was a fairly long road season for me this year. Not an insane amount of race days, but just a lot of travel. I came into the cross season already a little bit cracked, and I just don't want to overdo it. I would have loved to go, but for me right now, it's more important to just err on the side of resting and not burn myself out. And I think I do better when I have relatively fewer race days. I do think that going to Europe would be good preparation, but at the same time, I don't mind saving that for next season, and I've got plenty of time to do it.
What are you gonna do then too? Because you got a pretty big gap. It was kind of nice in some ways. I involved in a little bit of the USA cycling. I'm on the road committee, and we talked about when to place cross nationals too and stuff. And the thought was putting it in January would put it closer to Worlds, and that made it an easier transition for our riders to get ready. But now back in December, it's a pretty big gap between nationals and Worlds. And if you don't go to Europe, there's very few races still left in America. I mean, there's a few right in Texas and a few places in warmer climates, but not much. What are you going to do between nationals and Worlds?
Yeah, that does make it more difficult. And, I said that I don't like to race too much, but at the same time, I do like to race. If I have an important race, I like to do, a race a week or two before, just to kind of shake the legs out. And now I don't have the opportunity to do that. I will definitely do some race-like efforts. I will, I'm sure that I will get together with some people in Boulder and do, a race-like effort in the park, or, I have a couple of friends who have farms, and we ride at their properties too. And so we can, make a small, but basically a real cross course there. And on top of that, I'll get behind the scooter and do some motor pacing. That doesn't train the technical aspect, but as far as the physical side, it's really, really close to racing. And that's what I've been doing these past few weeks, and I think it helps me feel really good going into the races.
How early will you go to Fayetteville to get some course preparation there? Will you go there, a little bit earlier than you usually would to ride the course more?
Probably not, honestly. 2-3 days before. And it's world championships, so they're only running a handful of races. It's not like nationals where it's really difficult to find time to ride the course. At Worlds, you can just go out there kind of whenever you want in the couple of days preceding the event. So if I can just get 5 laps on the course the day before the race, and then 2 in the morning of the race, that's plenty. And actually I already raced that course in October, so I'm guessing they might change a little bit. It was a little bit short, especially if it's going to be dry, so I could see them adding a little bit of time on it, but for the most part it's going to be the same. So I already know the course, and it's going to be more of just seeing what the conditions are, seeing what the changes are, if any.
All right. Sounds like a good plan. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up in a few minutes. You can stay on if you want to the end. Randy and I, on our almost weekly podcast, sometimes we miss out some, but we always pick the day that we're podcasting to highlight whose birthday professional racers get their, even if you did Libidity, you'll get on the list for Pro Cycling Stats for the birthday. But we like to take a look on the 9th of December. And do you have any other questions, Randy, before we wrap this up with the birthday?
I was wondering if I can see the birthdays on my phone or not, because I can't.
I'm looking at them on my phone here.
Okay, I can't minimize my screen, so.
Yeah. Well, top of the list, we got Ryder Hazeldahl.
Oh, really?
He's 41. Yeah, so he's
41.
I mean,
it's not very old.
I know it's not that old. I know. 100 of Verdi's older than that, isn't he?
Yes.
So,
well, I think he's 41 this next year. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, of course, Giro d'Italia winner in 2012, dramatic final time trial win over that was Joaquin Rodriguez that year, I believe, huh? So
yeah,
he's won a couple of stages at the Welt. I mean, he's got a pretty strong Palmares list, Canadian.
Yeah,
of course,
Christian Vanderbilt. I know Christian somewhat, and they roomed together during that Giro and other times as well too. And so Christian has some good stories about how they weren't talking about him being in the pink jersey for a long time or the chance that he could win it because they felt if they talked about it too much, then that might jinx it somehow. So they just kept kind of quietly, and it was the elephant in the room all the last week or so of the Giro that Ryder might be able to win that. And like you said, he pulled it out at the end, and he's a good time trialist for sure, but Rodriguez is
not
always
such a
that right.
Trials,
exactly. Yeah. That's been his Achilles heel for his whole career, or was his Achilles heel. Yeah.
Yeah. Rodriguez is so close to winning a Grand Tour a couple of occasions, and
yeah, the Volta a couple times too.
Yeah. So, second on the list, though, active rider still, Ashley Moolman, the South African. She's 36, so that's pretty good to be second on the points list. She rides for SD Works now, so one of the top team, you could say, in Europe. 4-time African Continental champion, and yeah, she's got a lot of seconds in GCs, a lot of seconds in races, but strong rider, Ashley Moolman.
Yeah, and
so Matthias Frank is next.
I say the women don't have as much chance to accumulate as many points too, because they haven't had as robust of a schedule as the men do too. So second place on any given day is quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, Matthias Frank, I believe he won. Did you, Eric, when you were watching, let's see, in the early 2011, I guess the first year, the USA Pro Challenge in Colorado, did you get to watch the races as they came through Boulder area or follow it much?
Yeah, I did. Let me see. I watched on Lookout one year, probably 2011 or 12. And then was it 2013 that the race finished on Flagstaff?
Yeah, I think that's what.
That was incredible.
Yeah, that was. I rode Taylor. My son Taylor Warren. He and I riding up the Flagstaff climb through the crowd, and you felt like you're, in the race. There was a group of people that were tightly packed in the tunnel. So I feel like one time I got an experience of what it's like to ride up in a crowd like that. It was phenomenal. Yeah. So
that was crazy. Yeah, I wish I'd gotten a chance to do that stage. That would have been incredible.
Yeah. So he was second in the overall in the GC, Matthias Frank, in 2013 that year for the USA Pro Challenge. So he won a stage at the Vuelta in 2016. He's been second in the GC at Tour de Suisse. So
he was a great Palmares for sure.
Yeah. But I think it seems like he won a stage at that USA Pro Cycling Challenge, maybe under Breckenridge. It seems like, if I remember, I don't know. So Trent Klasna is 52. He's on the list today. Happy birthday, Trent.
Yeah, Trent raced for Redlands. When I lived in Redlands, he was on the Redlands team, he and his brother, and it was Trek Cytomax team, but it was the Redlands team. And they were so good. And I was just starting out racing at that point. And even though he's younger than I am, he was, I started cycling later, but he was like, oh my gosh, he was just such a great rider in the town that I lived in too. He was
a little younger than you are. Then
yeah, I know he's younger 52. Than I am.
Yeah.
He raced before me. So
yeah. Spencer Paxson's 37. Don't really have anything on 8 points on him. Spencer, happy birthday. Made the list.
It's oh, never mind. So I saw Kwiatkowski. I was wondering if that was related to, but it's not though. So
no. We have to pick a day next time to podcast on Eric's birthday. So when's your birthday, Eric?
Yeah, I actually just turned 23. I was going to say that. December 1st. We should have done the podcast last week.
Yeah. All right. Well, happy birthday. Nicholas Collins. Nicholas Collins. Is that the Nick Collins that is from Florida? Could be raced. Hard to say. Nick Collins, 24. It could be about that. All right. Well, thank you so much, Eric, for joining us.
Yeah.
Best of luck. best
Yep.
safe travels and
Thanks, Gaylord.
yeah.
Thanks, Gaylord, for joining us too. And
My pleasure.
yeah. So I think so. I was looking to see how we could watch it live, and Flow Bikes does not have much exclusive footage on any races anymore. You can get it from GCN, almost everything except for I think the national championships. I don't know if you have to have a subscription to see it or not. I did see something that said that if you go to Flow Bikes' webpage, maybe you could watch maybe part of it without a subscription. I'm not sure, but we may not be able, maybe harder to see this year than it has been in the past. I
Maybe
dropped my Flow
so.
subscription because it wasn't, again, the only thing you
It's-
could see on it, you couldn't see anyplace else was national championships. So
Yeah, and it's like a 1-year one. Oh, you got to call, you got to go. I'm sure. Thank you so much for the time for you, Eric, Gaylord, and Randy. It's great
Yeah.
to have you all join us.
thank you, Dean.
All right,
Thanks
Darren
for
just
having me,
walked in.
guys.
All right.
Thanks for the intel, Gaylord,
You bet. Good luck Sunday. Yeah, rock on.
and good luck in the team relay. Thank you.
Sure.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right.
Thanks,
See
guys.
you guys. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. So that's easy now. You just send me the file and I added the beginning, the back end. We're good to go.
Yep.
Thanks, Eric. So Eric, how you flying on like United?
Southwest.
Southwest. Oh, okay. Yeah. Right. All right. Well, hopefully everything will go smoothly with the travel and yeah, best of luck.
Yeah,
Flying
well,
it-
thank you.
Flying into Midway then probably, right? You're flying Southwest.
No, it's O'Hare.
Oh, here. Okay.
O'Hare.
They have a few flights to O'Hare, not very many, but a few of them there. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Southwest just has so many out of Denver. Like that's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Um,
And their bike
but yeah.
policy is not too bad either.
yeah, and just bring in one bike, and then my others are already there. So pretty
Okay.
easy.
All right, sweet. All right. Well, thanks again. And yeah, we'll catch up with you maybe next, I don't know, next year. So they're already doing the road season, man. You're gonna have a pretty good road season next year.
he said he's gonna mountain bike more.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's right, mountain bike.
not doing any road.
No road at all.
Seriously.
Okay.
Well, I'll do some road. I would like to do a couple stage races, just guest ride. I still like the road. I just don't want to do a full schedule. So I'll be riding a blue for the road season, and then also racing some cross country mountain bike.
No gravel racing yet though, huh? You gotta wait till you get later.
I'll probably do a little bit.
Yeah.
Not too seriously, but you know,
All right.
it wouldn't
And
hurt.
then
I'll
you're
do
gonna have a stronger cyclocross focus.
Yeah,
next
yeah.
week.
I would like to come into cross a little bit more rested, do a little bit more specific cross prep over the summer, and honestly, like tailor my summer schedule a little bit better for the cross season, particularly the beginning. And if I do some road stage races, I would like to, do my best there, do well there, but with the secondary focus of, using those as training for cross. So
You ever talk to Jeremy
You know,
Powers? Do you know Jeremy at all? Because
yeah, I do.
yeah, Jeremy did that transition where he was doing a road schedule kind of to pay his bills, and then but really wanted to focus on cross. And in 1 year he said, okay, I'm just gonna cut the cord on road and just do cross. And that's really when he jumped up to that next higher level. So he might be good to pick his brain on that stuff too.
Oh, for sure. And I think he's one of the guys that did it the right way. I think you can't just focus on cross in the sense of like, you don't do any road or mountain bike race. You got to race in the summer, I think. You don't need to do a full schedule, but I just think there's no way to simulate a stage race in training. And so
Yeah.
I think doing stuff like that is really, really helpful.
Yeah, I think that's what Matteo Vanderpool's dad, Andrew Vanderpool, is talking about the latest article, saying some of these other cyclocrossers aren't doing enough strong road racing to be up to the level. But yeah, no.
Well, it's hard because mentally it doesn't make sense, right? Because mentally you think
Yeah.
a really hard hour effort, how is that similar to, but the kind of strength you build from a multi-day race is you can't, like you said, you can't really replicate that.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, guys.
All right.
I got a
It's not-
meeting here, but I don't know nobody else is to meet.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks,
Cheers.
Eric.
Have fun this
Bye.
weekend.
Bye.